All right, we are live. Tim Wenger, how are you?
Good. You said I wasn't supposed to talk yet.
Well, you're not. I wanted to introduce you right away, and then we'll fall back to you. But yeah, I just want to welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is live right now. It will be posted later to Facebook and YouTube as well. But thank you for joining us. This is the inaugural pilot episode of BenThere.
That's exciting.
So it is exciting. Yeah, pilot with a pilot, right? That's the name of the show.
Aha. I see what you did there.
Thank you.
All right, before we start, we got someone who wants to say a quick hello. Here, put this in. For those of you who don't know, this is my daughter, Marin, and Ben is Marin's godfather.
Hi.
So we couldn't allow this to start without Marin saying hello.
Hi.
All right, you said hello. Now you got to go.
Now you got to go. Got to go. So I have been, since we posted this little invite last night, I've been getting a bunch of inquiries as to why we're doing this. It's pretty self-explanatory. Look, here's the deal. I think the world needs a break. We all need a break from the daily grind. This is meant to be a break from politics. It's a break from the status of the world. The way I grew up and the way Tim grew up, I've always been intrigued by people. That's really what this comes down to. And not only been intrigued by people and cultures, but also this is why we're doing this. This isn't rocket science. This isn't meant to be, deep thought by any means, but we are going to get into some stuff today, and we'll keep it a little lighthearted about halfway through, and then we'll go from there. So quite frankly, I do have a lot of interest. This is one of them. If anybody's followed me on my blog, the BenThere.org, you can do that too. There's a lot of my writings and my postings. But that's what this show's about. It's just about me talking to people. A lot of the shows will be about me talking to those who grew up similar to how Tim and I did as third culture kids. We both grew up overseas, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But before I do want to give a little props out to the guy that got me really focused on doing this is Calvin. He interviewed me in January.
Ben's frozen up.
See me still? There we go.
I got you. There you go.
Oh, there we go. So let's get to this. I want to introduce Tim. Tim and I have known each other for over 30 years, which is
Marin calculated today 34 years. She did the math.
34 years. Yeah, we met in 6th grade in Taipei, Taiwan. We have managed to keep this friendship going through thick and thin, through good times and bad times in both of our lives. I am beyond ecstatic to report we both were the best man in each other's wedding.
That's right.
As Tim talked about it earlier, Marin is my goddaughter. So obviously we've kept in touch. So it's one of the things we're going to talk about in a little bit, but I really want to brag about Tim for a second. Tim is a pilot with. Can you hear me?
We lost you there for a sec, but we got you back. I got you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I think it's going well so far.
All right, there's always a backup. What's that? Okay. I didn't hear what you said.
I said I can hear you.
Okay.
I said I can hear you.
My earphones have decided to go compliant.
We'll edit this.
Okay, I'm with you now. Don't
worry about it. Yeah.
All right. Tim has been with JetBlue Airlines for 11 years?
11 years, 2009, yep.
Okay. Oh, the earphones are now working again. Technical difficulties, but we're back. Can you hear me?
I just want to point out that all the technical difficulties are all on Ben's end. I just want to point that out.
Totally. I'll accept that. But let's try that one more time. Tim has been with JetBlue Airlines for 11 years?
11 years, yep. JetBlue Airways.
11 years. He also worked for Spirit Airlines, Midwest Airlines, is a graduate, and was a former flight instructor at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Mm-hmm. He interned at the NTSB in Washington, D.C., but more importantly, Tim is a fantastic father, husband, and friend. With Tim, what you see is what you get. There's no falseness to this guy, and those of you that are chiming in, in writing. I've getting Tim. I don't know if you can see this, but we're actually getting a couple people that are dropping little notes to us. So some I know, yeah, some I know, but there's no falseness with this guy. What you see is what you get, and he has been that way since 1996 when I met him.
1986, anyway, but who's counting? What's 10 years between friends?
Who's counting? No, it's all good. So realistically, ladies and gentlemen, first guest on the show, Tim Wenger. Thanks for joining, buddy.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
All right, so we're gonna get off right away to the important question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind. You ready? You sitting down?
I'm very excited now. Yes.
All right. We're gonna quickly ask this question, then we're gonna move on, because we did preface this by saying let's not talk about the craziness in the world right now. But what's the Wenger clan doing during this quarantine binging time?
We're doing okay. Today technically started the homeschooling, the distance learning with both kids' schools. They were actually
How's that going? How's that going? Because you know me, I'm a former teacher. I'm curious here.
Yeah. Well, when this whole thing started, we had spring break for a week, so they were off anyway. Then they had a week where they had optional, what's called like iLearning, where they could do modules, but it wasn't required. Today actually started the actual required school, like where they have assignments and stuff. And it went well. I guess there was some technical difficulties that other people experienced. We didn't have that. Both kids were able to get in. Once we figured out how to work click here, there, I see it, open that up, whatever. Marin was pretty self-sufficient at that point, and Aiden was the same way. Aiden had a lot more work. That's my son, Aiden. I have a 12-year-old son named Aiden. He's in 7th grade. He had a lot more work than Marin did, but they both got through it. We would check on them, and they're like, I'm doing fine. So I was pretty happy that they were able to figure it out, do it themselves without too much need for us to step in, because eventually that would probably not end well for anybody. Yeah.
Well,
but I got to hand it to the school here. I'm in Seminole County, Florida. This is a new thing for everybody. Difficult. I got to hand it to all of the teachers for both Marin and Aiden. Really stepped up. They built these modules, put stuff together. My daughter it's a Google Drive, Google Docs thing that she uses. And then Aiden is through this iReady eCampus thing that they're using. And they're really doing a good job with keeping up, putting out social network posts, letting us know what's going on as best they can as we figure out what we're going to do moving forward. So it's been difficult, but I think we're handling it well, being home and all that sort of thing, and dealing with everything. But I'm pretty happy with at least how the distance learning went today.
So I'm curious then, how are they able to see their friends? Do they have kind of like a Zoom type of schooling, or is it?
We have a lot of friends in the neighborhood. We've had what we've called like social distancing get-togethers, where Marin will draw out 6-foot markers on our driveway, and we kind of hang out that way. And we were letting them play together a lot more in the beginning, and now we're reevaluating as that goes along. Hasn't been too bad in our county yet, where we are in Central Florida, but you know how everything's going as the testing is ramping up. The numbers are getting worse, so we're just playing it pretty much day by day. Now that school has started, they're a lot more busy during the day, so there's a lot more for them to do.
Gotcha. Yeah, Marin said her favorite part. I asked her, but when you were away, and she and I were chatting earlier, she said that, just so you know, as a good dad here, she said her favorite part of being away from school is getting to spend time with her family. So, little cheer. Yeah. All right, good. I'm glad it's going well. So like I said, as a former teacher, I'm very curious how that's working out. So
yeah.
Now the important question though, Netflix or Hulu? What are you binging on?
Oh, all of them. Okay. All of them.
Are you one of these Tiger King guys or
no? I can't handle the rednecky stuff. I need uplifting.
You're in Florida. Florida.
I know. We get enough of Florida man down here. Carrie's watching it. She says it's good. I don't know. We'll see.
I lasted about 20 minutes into the first episode and I tapped out. So I don't get it either. But teach their own, I guess. Desperate times, right? So, gotcha. Well, cool, man. Let's talk about. We got through the quarantine stuff. Let's talk about the TCK thing, because I think a lot of people that are chiming in kind of are maybe either know about how you and I grew up or don't. But there's a lot of us out there, and that's kind of where this whole concept of the show kind of stemmed from. It's about people that grew up like I did. Those of you that don't know, TCKs, third culture kids, those that grew up outside their passport country, which Tim and I certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start off with a question that every TCK gets and every TCK cannot stand, because it's a loaded question. So I'm going to ask you flat out. You get it. You know it. Where's home, Tim?
Where's home? Yep. It's funny. I had a feeling you were going to ask me about that, and I was reflecting on that today and yesterday as we were gearing up for this. And it's funny. I left Taiwan in 1993. My journey overseas started.
We left Taiwan
when we left Taiwan, right? The interview's about me, buddy.
That's right. Sorry, go ahead.
But so that's what, 27 years ago. I had moved overseas when I was 3 years old. My family moved to the Philippines, so I was there from age 3 to age 6, and then in Taiwan from age 6 to obviously graduating high school in 1993. So I'm pretty far removed from it now. I think if you had asked me that question maybe 15 years ago or so, I would have said, oh yeah, I still consider myself from Taiwan. Of course, now I've had children. I have a family, a wife. We moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, back in 2001 and lived there for 10 years. And now we're in Florida. I consider Florida my home now. This is where my family is. Our friends are. We're pretty ingrained into the community here, both with their school and the children's sports and whatnot that they and Marin's theater and whatnot. So I do consider Florida my home now. That doesn't take away, obviously, from my feelings about Asia and specifically about Taiwan. Ben and I actually went back and visited Taiwan 4 years ago. I took my family out there. We visited Ben in China.
I was working there. Yeah,
What's
I was
that?
working there.
Yeah, well, Ben was working in China. So. And then we went back to Taiwan. That was the first time I had been back in about 20 years, and it was amazing. And I really felt like I was home while I was there, for sure. It's when you grow up that way, in a culture like that, it really sticks with you for your life. So Taiwan is always a part of me. I do consider it home, one of my homes for sure. But he asked me now, where am I from? Where is home? It's Florida now.
Because you started off where in the Philippines? Was that your first?
Yeah, I went to kindergarten and preschool in the Philippines. My father was hired there as the principal of the elementary school in the Philippines at the International School of Manila. And then we moved to Taiwan in 1981, where my father was hired initially as the vice principal of the elementary school there and then became the principal. My mother taught art in the high school. Both Ben and I were in my mother's class, and I was in my dad's office a lot in elementary school. Yeah. Hey, Mrs. Vogel's chiming in. Hi, Mrs. Vogel.
Can you see people on here now, Tim?
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Vogel's my second mom.
That's true. There you go. So, hey, on that, then the experience of growing up at TCK, again, third culture kid, growing up internationally, do you think, or how would you say that that kind of molded you into who you are today?
Certainly. Another good question, and one that I obviously expected. It's, again, as I've gotten further away from it, obviously I have a lot of experiences now in the United States, 27 years living here. But when you grow up in overseas in Asia, of course, it shapes you, it forms you. It's a completely different way to grow up, obviously. You're in a completely different culture. You're put into it. My experience is a little different than some others. So as you grow up in a place like that, we both went to Taipei American School. Every year you get new kids coming in, and your friends leave every year. It's a lot of expats, people that their parents were hired by a corporation and were sent to Taiwan for 2-3 years. So they would show up in like 7th grade and then leave after like 9th or 10th grade. And then some people like me were there. I was there all the way 1st grade, all through 12th grade. I think in our graduating class, there was maybe 6 of us that had been at Taipei American School from 1st grade all the way through 12th grade. So when that happens, you're forced to, or not forced, but you become good at making close friends quickly because you're all kind of in this together. Someone like me who had been there for many years was, good for kids that were new. I could show them how things work, where to go, how to talk in taxi cabs and how to order at McDonald's, that sort of thing. But it also makes you keep people sometimes a little distance too, because they might be leaving within the next couple of years, and it's sad and unfortunate. A lot of people I considered very close, good friends in elementary school were gone by the time I was in middle school. Same thing there. A lot of people I was very close with, very good friends, left. And then, of course, in high school, when Ben and I really became close friends, and those are really formative years for any young man or young woman. I was fortunate that we had a very close friendship and bond through there. But we had friends that left. We had a friend named James Gunn. The three of us, we were called Tim, Ben, and James. We were very close in ninth grade, and he had to leave suddenly after ninth grade, unexpectedly, and it was very sad for all of us. So, we made new friends, and we had a lot of, very close-knit groups of people that we were with. And living that way, there's a lot of freedoms that come along. Parents have to trust their kids more. We would go out and hang out in Taipei, Taiwan when we were 13 years old, right? And I think having that sort of freedom when you're young is helpful when you grow up, as you become a more independent, go to college, move out of the home, and that sort of thing. I think it's very beneficial. It's been very beneficial to us. I hope that answers your question. It's a little roundabout.
No, totally. I think that's one thing that I've always thought about too. I do totally agree with you. I think you end up growing up a lot faster.
Yeah.
And you're kind of thrown into situations. I think a lot of people at such an early age, a lot of people aren't, but I do think I don't regret it by any means, which leads me to my next question. In hindsight, if you could grow up the same way, would you, or would you rather
absolutely.
grown up stateside?
I can't imagine growing up any different way. And it was difficult as I had children knowing that they were not going to have that experience.
Before you go any further with that, it's funny. I just got a question on that because Erin McKenney, who I've known even longer than you, she and her family were friends of ours when we lived in Hong Kong prior to moving to Taipei. Mm-hmm. But she just asked, now that you've got kids, any regret of them not growing up in that same situation?
Certainly. I am very grateful for where we live and the experiences my children are having, certainly. But there's a big part of me that does wish I could have exposed my children to that. We are doing the best. We've done a lot of travel with our children. We're very fortunate. We've been able to do a lot of travel. So my goal is to make sure my children have seen the world by the time they leave home, when they're 18, 19, wherever, and go to college. So we've done a lot of travel. Of course, that's different. That's not the same as living in a culture like that. But we really want to expose them to different cultures, travel the world, see a lot of places with them. And I think that's helping them become very, very well-rounded children.
To that, because I was just going to say, I've known you obviously a long time, and mainly since you've been a dad too. I've always respected the fact that, yes, you're stateside, but you take your kids everywhere.
Yes.
Your kids, how many stamps of your kids do your kids have in their passports right now? And they're not even, I guess Aiden's pushing his teenage years, but
yeah,
that's pretty impressive. Yeah. All right. So
yeah, we've been lucky. What's ironic is we've traveled a lot of places, but I have never gone, with the exception of Taiwan, to a place that I have been before. So we've traveled. We visited you in China.
It's even cooler, actually. Yeah. We went to the Great Wall. That's the first time I'd ever been to the Great Wall.
I'd never been there. Yeah. Now, of course, when we lived in Taiwan back then, there was a lot of restrictions on getting to the Great Wall. But
yeah, that's true.
We've taken them to Paris. We've taken them to Italy. We've taken them to Ireland. These are all places I'd never been to. It's funny, as much travel as I did as a child, I haven't gone back to those same places. I wonder why that is. I don't know if it's a psychological thing where I want to experience new things or what's going on. But I think as we hopefully continue. We try to do one big trip a year if we can. This summer might be a little difficult for that. It's interesting that we've only visited places that I actually had not visited when I was a child. But we're doing our best to really have them experience new cultures and new places and things like that, and get out of their comfort zone and that sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think whether they appreciate it now or not, they're going to look back and really appreciate the fact that they got that chance. So Marin was young when you guys were in China with me, but still,
the fact she remembers it quite well.
Good. The fact that they've got those stamps in their passport, that's saying a lot, man. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I truly respect the fact that you've done that and allowed them to see the world and see cultures. So, all right, the next question, because this is kind of an under, I guess, appreciated or under discussed conversation. And those of you that are chiming in that grew up the way Tim and I did, you might appreciate this question too. But There is a lesser known issue of TCKs once they do. Edible. I did say alcohol is welcome.
Making it
Here,
sound so serious. I should open another beer here. Yeah, I
let's do
encourage
it.
you following along at home to do the
Yeah,
same.
chime in. Everybody's happy hour somewhere. So. But no, there's a lesser known issue that goes with a lot of TCK issues when they do return back to their passport country, and it's one that I struggle with, and we can get into that in a little bit. You're not supposed to struggle on the outside, but internally, I think a lot of us do. But it's that reacclimation back or repatriation back into your passport country.
Yes.
When I first got back, like you, I came back for college. I'd spent 10 years overseas, and while that wasn't as long as you, I was 7 when we moved to Hong Kong, and 17 when I came back to the States. I'm 6'2", I'm a white guy, I looked the part, I was supposed to fit right in, but intrinsically and internally, I was a mess. The funny thing with me is that I did it twice, because I did it as a kid when I came to college, and then having lived overseas as an adult, I thought no big deal. I'd get back to the States and everything would be fine. And I think it's taken me, this is the 3rd year I've been back, which is crazy to think, but I'm still struggling. So my question to you, did you experience the same kind of thing when you came back from college? And if so, what were your struggles?
Certainly. No, again, we're going way back now to 1993.
Yeah, it's been a few years since college.
Yeah,
so.
it was definitely a transition. I had a lot of American friends, of course, growing up over there and going to an American school and whatnot. But it was really the first time in my life that I made American friends, right? When I started at Embry-Riddle, that's the college I went to in Daytona Beach. Fortunately, I think what really ended up helping me was, obviously I was very excited to start college that summer leading up to it. I was with my family, grandparents and whatnot in North Carolina, and then college started. While I was there, I got a letter from Embry-Riddle saying, hey, your roommate is going to be this guy. His name's Matt Smoko. He lives in Connecticut. Here's his phone number. And I called him, and he and I started talking. There's, of course, pre-cell phone and all that. We would have a couple conversations before we got together in Florida in the dorms. And that was very helpful, because I already had a friend right before I even started. And he was going through the same thing too, right? Moving away from home and all that sort of thing, and moving cross country and everything. That was very helpful. And I really think, I know it sounds silly now looking back, but all those silly icebreaker things that we did in the dorms with the RA, where we get together and you hand the thing across and then you have to say where you're from and all that sort of stuff and what you want to be when you grow up. I think that really helped me a lot. There was a lot of eye rolling and that sort of stuff, but I got to meet people, got to know people, made some good close friends there that I'm still friends with. Some of them I work with at JetBlue, and a lot of them are pilots at other airlines, and we keep in touch. And that was very helpful. But of course, it was a transition like any other. I had a car. We didn't have cars in Taiwan.
Suzuki.
That was
You had your Suzuki
a freedom.
Samurai.
Yeah, the Suzuki Samurai. I love that car. Oh man, someday I'm gonna get another one. But it was great. I had that freedom to drive around and just be by myself and take my friend. I was the only one who had a car too at the dorm, so in our wing of the dorm. So that was probably why I had a lot of friends.
I don't think that's the only
but
reason.
In all seriousness, it was a transition, and of course, one of the big ones, if we can be frank about it, was we didn't have restrictions on drinking in Taiwan. We would go to bars and stuff in high school, and even as early as middle school in 8th grade. We used to go to the DJ Lounge. Remember that place? So it was really not a big deal to go out with your friends and have drinks. Of course, coming back to the States, it's a completely different culture here, and now we have to find someone older to go buy us beer, bring it back to the dorm. We're sneaking around and got caught a couple times, that sort of thing. That was a bit of a strange thing, and I had a lot of conversations with people about that then, about, you must have had all these drinking problems and kids getting drunk and getting arrested and getting in trouble while you were over there. And frankly, we didn't have that. Yes, people got a little loose and a little crazy sometimes, but I think because alcohol wasn't some big scary thing or something we had to sneak around with, it wasn't as big a deal for us to get together and have a few drinks as friends. And I think that made it so we actually didn't really have alcohol issues in Taiwan. So that was a bit of a trend. It was weird, but I knew that going in. And they all thought it was real cool that I used to go to bars when I was in high school and stuff. But yeah, it was a transition. It was different to make American friends. I had never done that before. People that had born and raised in the United States and had never been outside the United States. And, and it was fun. It was a different adventure for me. And of course it helped that you and I kept up. You were in college with our good friend Jason Hopfinger, and we would send faxes.
Yeah,
you remember that? We would send faxes to each other.
Yeah, that was my high school graduation present. Wasn't a car; it was a fax machine. Since my parents still lived overseas, so, yeah, we were able to do that. But yeah, Hop, I got lucky when I first went to school. I was with Hop, so that did allow for a little bit of an easier transition. But I got to be honest with you. I mean, I spent I think he was there for overseas for 3 years, but I know he struggled a little bit. And as I was 7 when young, and then I'm thrown right back into a world of I look the part, I'm supposed to act the part, and I had no idea what the part was supposed to be. So
I didn't really experience it like that. I felt like I was able to assimilate. I think okay. For me, it was just missing my friends and, of course, missing growing up in Asia and getting used to living in the States, which I was very excited about, being away from it my whole life, being an American and living in America and that sort of thing. But, yeah, certainly having you guys and our friend Nick Chen and you guys would come and visit for spring break in Daytona. And, of course, that was always a lot of fun, and we got to see each other and that sort of stuff. And, that obviously helped being able to get together with friends from high school over the years. And, and you get to – you get to chat and be with people that you know very well again, and that's always helpful.
Totally. No, good answer, man. Misconceptions of TCKs. I don't know if you have any, but it's kind of a funny story. When I got to Boise after my 2 years in North Carolina, I got to Boise and my first roommate in the dorms. It's so funny to think back now. He was actually an Asian American kid, and he was from Twin Falls, Idaho. And the first day of school, they posted like your name and where you were from on the doors. And so obviously Ben Vogel and I still had a hometown. My parents still lived in Taipei at the time. And so I posted Taipei, Taiwan as my quote unquote home. And here's this Asian American kid who posted Twin Falls, Idaho. And so
Where's where you were born? Were you born in Twin Falls?
No, just outside. Jerome, Idaho. So yeah, I'm a Jerome homie. So, but the funny part was, it was just like people didn't understand the fact that like I think that they got your names and your home countries wrong. I'm like, but funny. What are the chances, right? Of course, it was going to be an Asian American kid. So, but no, I mean, in terms of misconceptions, getting back to you though, as a TCK third culture kid, are there any misconceptions that you can think of? And was it a blessing and a curse? I mean, how do you truly feel about the experience?
Well, I guess, two questions there. I would say, maybe people think we're weird or we're different because we go overseas. And sure, we had different experiences.
We're weird and different, but that has nothing to do with being a TCK. Let's be honest.
But in all honesty, we were kids. We were growing up. We were making friends. We were trying to get girls and go out and have fun and that sort of thing. No different than anyone here. We just did it in a different way. And I think a lot of maybe people think that, because you grew up overseas, you're different or you're strange or whatever. I certainly haven't really experienced that with the people I've met and the friends I've made with over the years.
When you got back to college, did you openly share your experience? I mean, did people know that was? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they all would ask questions about it and whatnot. What was the second question there? There's something else you asked.
Let me look at my cheat sheet here. I think it was more just misconceptions, and then was it a blessing or a curse? How do you feel the overall experience?
Oh, certain. I mean, it certainly was a blessing, and it was certainly helpful when I was trying to make friends. It gave me certainly something to talk about. You know, and maybe a little popular, maybe back when we were in college, and I could say, I grew up in Taiwan. Here's what that was like. They were always wanted to know about the no drinking age. That was mostly the stories I would tell.
See, what's funny is I got people asking like, they three things, and I've talked about this before. They either thought it was the coolest thing ever, or they could care less, which is fine too, or this is my favorite. I've been to California.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Like. No, don't do that. So anyway,
yeah. But it's certainly like you look at my fridge. I got some weird stuff in there because I grew up in Asia, right? Like, what is this stuff? Asian spices. Every kid who grew up over there has got a old school rice cooker right? With the old like Chung thing with the big cocoon handle on it,
Yeah.
you know. And then you get some funky looks with that, you know. I will say one thing is nice if I can go off on a tangent now, a little bit. As the world shrinks and, you know, we become more of a culture mixing and all that sort of stuff, it's becoming, there's a weird, funny side effect of that. It's becoming a lot easier to find good food now. You could never
Chinese food
find
or Asian
a good
food
bowl of Taiwan noodles in Florida. Forget about it. You'd have to go to New York for something like that. And fortunately, with JetBlue being headquartered in New York, I would spend a lot of time there, and I would Google up Taiwan noodles and find them and go home. Well, now they have a place here in Florida near me, near the UCF campus called Taipei 101, which you're eating Taiwan noodle bowl from Taiwan. It's amazing. So I think that's nice side effect and benefit of as the world grows smaller and smaller, that you can still experience some of that culture now, where before, you know, I moved to Daytona Beach in 1993. Chinese restaurants here, I was like, I don't know what any of this stuff is, you know. Going out with my friends, like, you should order for us. I'm like, I don't know what General Tso chicken is. I've never heard of that before, you know.
I always remember General Tso chicken when we went to New York on I think it was a spring break, and we went down to see my brother.
Yes.
In Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Area, but damn, that was good.
Yeah.
General Tso chicken. Do you remember that? We had to get it ordered behind a cage.
They always had the better Chinese food there in New York for sure. Cool. They probably still do, frankly.
No, that's awesome, man. So obviously you've already kind of alluded to this a little bit, but the fact that you travel so much still for your work, but more importantly with your kids and your wife overseas, is there any place that you still haven't made it to that you'd like to get to?
Oh, certainly. I would definitely. I've never been to Japan, with the exception of Okinawa.
What?
We went there.
I was going to say, yeah.
Okinawa, like, kind of doesn't count.
Yeah.
Like actual Japan, like Tokyo and that sort of thing. Vietnam, I've never been to. I'd really like to go there. Certainly, a lot of places in Europe.
Get to Vietnam. I was lucky. I was fortunate enough to do that when I was over in China. We went for Chinese New Year a couple of years back. But yeah, get to Vietnam.
Yeah, I really want to go back there. And deeper parts of China. We visited Beijing and Shanghai. And of course, I've been to Hong Kong a lot when I was a kid, but I'd like to go deeper in that river where you can go and see where they unearthed all those statues. I'd like to see that. There's a lot of places, a nice, gigantic, big world, fortunately out there that we can go see, and I'm planning on doing that.
Yeah, and I think that's part of being a TCK. I think, you know, the world still. I mean, yeah, I've been back in the States a while, so have you, but I still have that itch, man. I want to explore. I don't sit. I think that's part of being a TCK. You always have my passport is always updated. It's probably one of my prized possessions. The travel bug doesn't go away, I think.
Yeah, you get back from a trip and it's almost like depression. Like, man, where are we going next?
Well, that's that's exactly how I felt. And we kind of talked about this. But after I got back from Shanghai, I was only there 2 years. But it was almost as hard, if not maybe harder, to come back to the States after just being overseas 2 years again, because I fell right back into that. I love this. This feels like, and then I come back to my passport country, and it's great. Don't get me wrong. But there's that itch that just never truly goes away, and I think you alluded to it earlier. But that's that misconception, is that I don't think that ever truly goes away. You know, is the way we grew up and who we are. It's instilled in you and kind of tattooed into your soul that that's who you are, and exploring. And I mean, you and I were both, and many people on here that are chiming in here, man, that doesn't go away. And I'm so happy. And I mean, that my parents were, I guess, given that opportunity, which allowed my brother and I to have that opportunity. And it just becomes a part of who you are. You're like the deep core of who I am. I'm a traveler, man. I want to go everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be
I mean, Asia's obviously
be all uncomfortable and cranky and get out and see some town I never thought I'd be in and get back. Wow, it was amazing. You know, that's
see, the one thing about you and I too, which I love, is the fact that when you and I do travel, and I've traveled with you a number of times. I mean, between obviously Asia and even Ireland and things like that, I mean, this isn't everybody, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I love the fact that you and I are both mom and pop shop type of guys. We want to go to the local hangout. We
Yes.
want to go to the local noodle shack. We don't need McDonald's. We don't need Pizza Hut. And I think that's how
Well, I'll tell a
you really
funny
want to
story.
live. Do that.
I'll
So.
tell a funny story for those who are watching. When we were in Beijing, we did a tour with a tour company and like to the Great Wall and whatnot. And we're coming back and we told the tour guide, hey, we want to, can you recommend a good like local place for Peking duck? We really wanted to get like the authentic Peking duck. He's like, oh yeah, this one place, it's incredible. Yep. It's really nice. It's the top end. It's the best Peking duck in Beijing. And we're like, no, you don't understand. We want to go to like the local place. Like, no, you want to go to this place. So he drops us off. Remember, he walked us all the way up to the restaurant. It was like on the 10th floor of some mall there. And it was like this crazy 5-star restaurant. We're like, this is not what we want. So as soon as he left, we got up and left, went downstairs, and across the street, there was like that local place. Oh, that was like one of the best meals of my life, man. And yeah, you're right. That's where I want to be.
Oh, totally. And I remember you and
go ahead.
Yeah. And I remember when you were in Shanghai, you and Aiden and Marin would get up early and go down to the local noodle shack for breakfast. I thought that was awesome. You actually went to places I never went.
Yeah, walking into this, it was all these workers that were getting there, either coming off of work at 6 a.m. because we were all jet lag, or people going to work maybe. And here I walk in with my two incredibly white-haired blonde kids, like ordering noodles. It was $1 too. It was $1 US for this gigantic, amazing bowl of noodles. Yeah, that was incredible. They love that. They still talk about that.
Yeah, and emphasis on amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they put in. I don't care what they put in. I mean, it's but it's amazing food. And
it's not to ask, man.
So. Yeah, it's better not to. I was telling Emily about that the other day, my wife Emily, and we were talking about all the stuff we ate out of the back of trucks in Taipei. Yes. The fried squid and God only knows what we've eaten. So but damn, it was good. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, we're good. Coronavirus, what? Like we're fine. I'm not worried about it. So. All right, brother. So let's move along because I don't want to keep it too long here. But friendship. I mean, that's we're gonna get a little deep here. Maybe I don't know. It's really your call. But 30 years of friendship.
Yeah.
The irony is, you and I have actually spent more time away from each other than we ever did living in the same area. What's the key to friendship? And I'm not just talking about us. In your opinion, because I know you. People meet and you're like me, you know, if they let you in or if you let them in, they're friends for life. But in your opinion, what is the key to maintaining a friendship, especially as dudes, because we don't like to touchy-feely here, but what's your key to why we lasted 30 years? I mean, you're the longest relationship I've ever had, which is good and bad. Well, but honestly, I'm proud to call you my brother too. So
yeah. There's no secret. It's you, buddy. You're my friend. You're my Ben. Like, growing up overseas is certainly a different way to grow up, and it's a different experience. And sure, it brings people maybe a little closer together. But at the end of the day, your friends are your friends. They're the people you have experiences with, the people you grow up with, the people you get to know, or even the person you met last week that you've had some situation to go with together. My wife, Carrie, her best friend, Shannon, same thing. They met 5th, 6th grade, just like us. And their friendship is just very similar to ours, the same, very tight. We can go a year or two without seeing each other and get back together again. It's the same old thing. I'm making fun of you, giving you a hard time. We're drinking beers. We're hanging out, that sort of thing. But yeah, that's all it is. It's relationships. It's friends. Certainly what we go through as children, as young adults. I have very close friends from when I was in my 20s living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that are still some of my best friends today. And it's because we grew up together in Milwaukee. None of us had any money, but we were hanging out and we were going through our 20s together. Same with you and people like Nick Chen and Jason Hopfinger and Aaron Mahan and all those people, Sean McKeon. We all went through an experience together overseas as children, as high school kids. And when you form bonds like that, whatever the circumstances are that brought you together, that is what sustains a friendship and a relationship. And that's why. It's because of you. It's because of me. That's why we're still such good friends this many years later.
Oh, I agree. And I will be honest and say, like, those of you that know me a little bit, it is, I've struggled with this mainly when I came back to the States, I think the first time around, and maybe I speak for a couple of us, but I had walls up, man. I didn't trust the people that didn't understand me. And I'm not proud of that, but I think that's just a common maybe characteristic of someone who grew up like this. You're a lot more outgoing than I am. I mean, we get around each other, forget it. It's all good. But
Right.
I'm a lot more. I don't even know what the word is, but you're definitely more of an outgoing person. I've always respected and admired that about you, but it took a while. It took me a long time to kind of
Yeah.
put those walls down and let you in. And I've been like you. I've been fortunate. I've got people from Boise. I've got guys that you met guys, and that's kind of the cool thing about you and I too, which I've always appreciated is that yes, we came back to the States, and yes, we kind of went our separate ways, but we've always rebounded. But I know those guys you're talking about. You welcomed me into
Yeah.
that side of who you are, and the same thing with me. Guys, or Chad
Yeah.
Camp, Mac, all those guys that, yeah, they're
Yep.
crazy just like we are. But that's one thing as a TCK. I don't know if it was just me. I don't know if that's how it works, but maybe it's just me as a person. But I did struggle, especially with walls up. I still do that.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next question. As the years go by, maybe this isn't even a TCK anything anymore, but I mean, as a 40-year-old man, seek out those friendships, or are you pretty content with who you are? Do you let people in? What's your take on that?
I'm a man. I'm 40. Anyway.
Whoa.
Some people might get that. No, of course. And we moved.
Jason Geyser will love that question. Yeah.
We moved to Florida.
He and I say that joke about 20 times. So go ahead.
Right. We moved to Florida 10 years ago, about 10 years ago. And it was difficult for us because we were leaving behind some very close friends of ours. Now we have a child. We had Aiden, and Marin was on the way. And it was a big transition for us to move away from where we had a very tight-knit group of friends. We all got married around the same time. We all had children around the same time. We were very tight. And to move away from that into where we didn't know anybody when we moved down here. And yeah, we made friends. It was difficult at first, honestly, to get to know people, because a lot of people down here, either they already had their friends that they had, or they were like us and they were moving down here, and it was just difficult to make friends. But we've certainly made some very, very close, tight, good friends down here that I'm very happy and honored to call my friends. But yeah, I think that's, again, with anyone, the older you get, maybe it's a little harder to make friends, and it's a different type of friendships now. It's other people that have children, kids that my son plays baseball with, or my daughter goes to theater with, and we hang out at restaurants or at each other's houses. But it's friendships all the same, right? And I've been very fortunate and happy to have made friends. But certainly when we first moved down here, it was a big transition for us. It was difficult for us to make new friends. Honestly, harder than I think it was when I moved from Taiwan back to the States, because I was 18 years old in the dorm, a bunch of dudes were hanging out, getting to know each other. It's easier that way, right? But when we're moving into neighborhoods where there's established groups of people that know each other, it's been difficult, but we've been very lucky. We've made some very, very good friends since we've been down here. Oh, Marin's coming to say hi.
No, that's awesome, man. Hey, where is she? Because that's funny. We were just about to talk about fatherhood.
She's behind the glass. She knows
where
better.
Is she?
She's in our living room. I'm not letting her out.
All right. Well, I appreciate the fact that she came out is a perfect segue. So let's talk about fatherhood. Obviously, you've got the jump start on this over me, which is fine. But let's talk about your two great kids, especially with your amazing wife, Carrie. I mean, she puts up with you, so we can't stress that enough. So, but how has fatherhood changed your perspective on the world? I mean, you're a global guy. You grew up overseas. So right. Once those two little babies came around, how did that change or maybe it didn't? What's the perception or your perspective on the world now?
Well, kids, they change your life, Ben. I don't know if you've heard that before. No, it's being a father has.
So I've been told. Yeah,
it's been fantastic. I've certainly enjoyed it. Yeah, of course, it's changed me. It's changed my perspective on life, on my future, and the stresses and pressures of I need to care for and provide for this family, these children, and whatnot. And at the same time, like we talked about, I want them to grow up well-rounded, and I want them to experience cultures and respect other cultures and other people and that sort of thing. We do the best we can. Give them their freedoms, but also make sure we're guiding them in the right way and that sort of thing. But yeah, fatherhood has been an amazing experience for me. Aiden is 12. My daughter Marin is 8 years old. She'll be 9 in May. Aiden will be 13 in June. It's been great. It's been fun. I really enjoy it. Sure, there's struggles and it can be difficult at times, but we're very fortunate. We have 2 great kids. They've really made it easy on us, frankly. Slept well when they were kids. Like today with this distance learning, picked up on it pretty quickly, and then it was kind of hands off. Like, okay, well, I'm going to go watch TV then while they're in Marin. After about an hour or 2, came and said, okay, I'm all finished, and showed me all their work and everything. So we're very lucky there. And they're great travelers. They're fun to travel with. It's not stressful.
They're doing it since they were babies, so that's awesome.
I'll tell you a funny story. When we went to China, that was Marin's first trip out of the United States was to China. She was 6, 4, 5. She's telling me she was 5.
It was 4 years ago.
She had just turned 5. Anyway, when we were getting ready to go out there, we were telling her, okay, when you're out there, this is what's going to be like. You do this. And we used to keep telling her, Daddy or Marin, you have to be a trooper when you're out there. You're going to be a real trooper. It's going to be crowded. It's going to be crazy sometimes. So fast forward to when we came, we were in Beijing. We're walking down a crowded market there. I'm holding Marin's hand, and she looks up to me and goes, Daddy, am I being a trooper? Like, oh, yes, you are, honey. It's dusty in here. That's why my eyes are all watery.
That's awesome.
But when we came back home, and we took them out for ice cream, and we were reflecting on the trip and everything, and we were telling you guys were so amazing. You're such great kids. And Marin's like, yeah, we did do well. Mommy and Daddy got a little upset sometimes. But we
knowing Marin, I can totally see it. Yeah, it's totally see her saying that too. That's awesome. What do you worry about the most regarding just being a dad in terms of your kids and your wife and your family? And just, it's a crazy world right now, man.
Yeah, I would say that the social networking worries me with both kids. Maybe Marin a little more, but really both kids. That's a risk for them. And as a parent, you're trying to balance, they want to have iPods and phones, and Aiden wants to play Xbox online with his buddies. Aiden has a TikTok account that he does little funny dances to and stuff like that. You want them to be able to experience that. At the same time, you want to protect them as parents from all the horrible things that we all hear about. That's very difficult. We're trying to do our best to strike that balance with the same way everyone else is doing. But yeah, the social networking worries me. It frightens me. And we're just doing our best as parents to prepare them for how to do it properly, how to be prepared, what to do and what not to do, strangers, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Do they have a pretty good grasp on what's going on right now?
With the virus?
Corona and everything?
Oh, yeah, totally. Marin keeps getting mad at bats because it started with the bat. Like, stupid bat. Every time she hears something's been canceled, or they just pushed back their school a couple weeks to May 1st. Yeah. She's like, stupid bat, No, they handle it pretty well. Actually, it's been good. We've had some pretty honest discussions with them about it. And it's been fine. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I'm asking this next question. Obviously, I'm not a father yet, but I'm asking this next question because I know that a lot of people that are watching are. And, this isn't just a TCK thing, but it's a way for all of us to kind of connect together. But as a father, what do you think your biggest mistakes have been? Kind of a deep question. We took a turn here, so don't worry. We're going to rebound in the next segment. So,
wow, my biggest mistake as a father, man, that's a tough one, Ben.
Things you maybe you second guess yourself or something.
No, yeah, you always worry. Have we sheltered them too much, or have we given them too much freedom? Great example. We let Aiden play some pretty grown-up, mature video games. And at first we didn't, like your Call of Duties and those sorts of things. He's young, and you don't want him playing that stuff. But to Aiden's credit, he came down one morning from his room and said, Mom and Dad, I have a PowerPoint I want to show you. And he had made a PowerPoint explaining why we should allow him to get a PowerPoint presentation, which we still have, about why he should be allowed to play Call of Duty. He had researched you could turn the blood off and this, that. He could do paintball mode and all this sort of stuff. And, and where he plays his video. And of course, you're like, well, how can I say no now? Did all this work. And, I'll where I work on my photography and stuff is like our little office / his game room. It's like 90% his game room and 10% my little office, but whatever. I look over and see the game, but he's handling it well. We've had some good discussions about that, and it's not real and that sort of stuff. And I'd say that's been a big struggle for us. And have we done the right thing? I think so, but we'll see with time.
No, good answer. Good answer. That was yeah. All right, we're gonna move into some lightheartedness for a little while. You okay with that?
I think I'm okay with that. Everyone online okay with that?
Okay.
Hey,
everybody
Mr.
okay?
Hello.
Yeah. Everybody. There's a lot of people on here. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Old TAS crew. Yeah. So, in order to keep going, though, I do need to make a wardrobe change. You okay with that?
It's not if I'm okay.
All right. Just hold on one second.
Hold on. Yes, Marin. What do you want? You want to sit here? Yes. Marin wants to come. You won't see her, but she wants to sit. You're not gonna be able to hear Ben though. Okay. She says she doesn't care. All right. Go ahead, Nick.
Right. Hold on one second. I'm just gonna take these off for a second. Okay. Well, before I do that, as you know, I am a hat guy, hence the hat. But
yeah, there's a reason for that.
Take this one off. And I'm gonna put this one on.
Oh goodness. Oh geez. Man, you just lost like 20 IQ points just by doing that.
Well, and I gained about 30 followers, so that's even better. So, I had to do this because we went deep, and so it's time to lighten it up a bit. So we got to talk sports rivalries. Okay, we're gonna do this.
Okay.
Why? And I want people to understand this because I've known you 30 plus years. Taiwan days, you were a Cubs fan.
I was, yes.
You were a Bears fan. Okay. How in the hell did you end up a Brewers fan and a Packers fan? Tell the people.
Certainly. You're right. First game I ever went to was with you.
Oh, by the way, your wife just chimed in, and I'm going to say this is for you, Carrie.
She says, yay. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Don't listen to her. First baseball game I ever went to was with you in 1990, Wrigley Field, Cubs, Astros?
Yeah. Craig Biggio was a catcher at the time. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah. And it was amazing. You're right. I was a Cubs fan because of you. I didn't know baseball. I moved overseas when I was 3, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, when I was flight instructing at Embry-Riddle, I had a student that was from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then I got hired at an airline in Milwaukee, and I was going to be leaving in 2 weeks to move to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And at the time, I followed sports, but I wasn't like huge into like football or anything. I kind of liked the Jaguars because they had moved down here and they started a team in like 96 or so, and it was a semi-local team. And I still followed baseball a little bit, the Cubs, but wasn't all that into it. Long story short, the student I had that was from Milwaukee said, "Oh, you moved to Milwaukee, huh?" I said, "I guarantee you in a year, you will be a Brewers fan and a Packers fan. Like, get out of here." And sure enough, man, it's just, it's kind of like we talk about different cultures and that sort of thing. Moving to a place like Milwaukee, it's so ingrained in the culture there. The Packers really more, but the Brewers certainly. It just became such a way of life and a lifestyle out there. It was just this slow transition. It doesn't hurt that the Brewers are named the Brewers. They brew beer. Their old logo had hops and barley on it. Their mascot is Bernie the Brewer. He's a guy who brews beer, and he used to. He doesn't anymore. When there was a home run, he would go down a slide.
Wait, he doesn't. Right? He doesn't do that anymore.
He does the slide, but it's not into a beer anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. But you can still see the original slide and beer at Lakefront Brewery. They bought it from when they tore down County Stadium. You can go see it. Yeah. But actually, honestly, it's been kind of fun. Now we're rivals. I remember when the Packers and the Bears were in the NFC Championship game.
I don't want to talk about it.
Whatever.
We're having technical issues right now.
And I'm like, we were texting, talking crap, and Cutler just on the sideline. But I don't know if you remember this. I made a comment like, "This is great, though. Like, it's fun that we have this little rivalry going on." And of course, my wife Carrie is from Chicago. Her whole family are Cubs and Bears fans, and it's honestly kind of a fun thing. We give each other a hard time and talk smack about the other teams and whatnot. I'm not one of these guys who I hate the Cubs and Bears. I root for them. When the Cubs were in the World Series, I was wearing my Cubs stuff and rooting for the Cubs. I like baseball. I like sports, but yeah, I'm a Packer fan. I'm a Brewer fan, and both of my kids, Packers and Brewers.
Well, if it makes you feel better.
Oh, yes, you are.
I'll never admit this publicly, this is probably not the right venue to say this, but I actually do like Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a fun town. And Geisler and I were talking about that. We just went, what's that?
It's on video. Yeah.
Oh, no. We went down to Phoenix. Obviously, you know that, a couple weeks ago, and for spring training, and Geisler and I were talking about how we actually really do like Milwaukee. It's a fun town. But having said that,
had to cancel, unfortunately.
Yeah. No. So let me ask you the deeper question then. Okay. Mm-hmm. Would you rather have the Brewers win the World Series or the Packers win another Super Bowl?
Brewers. It's not even close. I would love to see on the World Series. Okay. Well, Ben, as you know, I've already seen the Packers win several Super Bowls. So
several? You've seen them win several?
Well, I guess I was an actual fan only for the
I think there's been one, and no offense to you, but since in my lifetime,
should we talk about their Super Bowl appearances?
The Bears win 1-2. So we're even. Fair enough. What have you been doing in terms of filling your sport itch right now? So anything? Because this is crazy with no sports being on.
I know they've been playing like a lot of old games and stuff on TV. I haven't really been doing that. I'm just missing it and looking forward to when it comes back, frankly. All of my sports have been canceled, all his practices. He had a tournament in Cooperstown, New York this summer. That's been canceled. It's just been one of those things,
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and rightfully so. I don't want to make light of what's been going on because it's a real thing, and people stay home, please. But I will say this: I started coaching again. I think you know that I'm the head baseball coach here for Highland High in Salt Lake, but it kills me for the seniors that basically have had their season taken away from them. But yeah, so I mean, I get it. It's a weird time, but reality is what reality is, and it's the right call. But I do feel bad for those kids that are seniors in high school right now. Think back to our senior high days, man. We lived it. There wasn't much we didn't do. So, but I do feel bad for those kids more than anything. So
this is a lighthearted.
Well, no, yeah. Well, that we had to. I'm keeping the hat on now. This is staying on the rest of the interview. So
fair enough. I'll allow it.
All right. We're going to transition once again. I want to talk about grown man hobbies. I know you have one, and you've actually had it since I'm assuming back since high school, maybe even before that. But dating back to high school, you've always had a fascination with photography. Not only a fascination, but you're one hell of a photographer too. And I'm not saying that other than the fact that I was always jealous growing up. So tell me how you got involved with that and where things stand with that today.
Sure. I took a photography class in middle school with Mr. Bublitz. Remember him?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Photography, like 101, whatever, and really enjoyed it. And then in high school, took photography in 11th grade and then did the IB program in senior year and got like a fairly nice film camera and was doing a lot of photography, black and white stuff and that sort of thing. Really enjoyed it. When I came back to the States and obviously got involved in training to be a pilot and all that sort of stuff and get my career going, it really fell to the wayside. And then of course during that time, digital photography came in vogue and all that sort of thing. So I was hoping eventually someday be able to afford a nice digital camera. And that trip to China was actually the catalyst for it. When we decided we're going to go to China, I'm like, you know what, it's time for me to bite the bullet and I'm going to spend the $1,000 to get a decent digital camera. And I've just gotten more and more into it, doing photo editing and that sort of thing. And it's a real passion of mine. And it's been a really nice way to have that creative outlet to express myself, my photography. Obviously with the travel, a lot of travel photography. And then with the kids, I photograph all of Aiden's sports. I can become the de facto team photographer for Aiden's baseball, football teams. I take pictures at the games and I put them out there in Dropbox for all the parents of all the kids and everything. Take all the team photos and that sort of stuff. And then for my daughter, when she's in her theater, I take photos, and that's a little more challenging because it's darker. It's a lot. And of course, learning digital was a big difficult transition for me to learn how to use Adobe Lightroom and it was a Photoshop and all that sort of thing. And then most recently,
you there?
You got
there
me?
We go.
Yeah. My wife is heavily involved in the PTA at her school.
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay. My wife is heavily involved in the PTA at my daughter's elementary school, Layer Elementary, and they took over the yearbook this year. And basically, I was asked, "Can you do the yearbook?" Because none of us know how to do it. So that was a whole new thing for me. I put together the entire yearbook for my daughter's elementary school. Went in, took photos of all the clubs and all the events and that sort of stuff, and had to learn how to use the software it's all digital, of course, to put it together. Submitted it, finalized yearbook on March 6th, which turned out to be the last day of school for the kids. So the yearbook won't contain any of this whole coronavirus stuff, which would have been neat to have a page that highlighted that transition. But that was a fun thing for me to learn how to do that, how to put together a yearbook and really channel my skill as a photographer into that. It was a totally different way to look at photography and decide how to shoot a school event or a classroom or something like that and put it into a yearbook creatively. So I've really enjoyed that. I've really have enjoyed it. Photography has been a really great creative outlet for me. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh man, you were talented back then, even more so now. So I've seen, especially with the sports pictures, I'm in awe. So you've got some skills there, brother.
I love photographing my son when he's playing baseball. I mean, in football, It's so much fun, you know.
Well, where can we find your work, man? You got to get a website going or something.
Yeah, I don't do a great job of promoting. I take photography for me. I have a lot hanging in my house. I do have an Instagram page. It's Meigwo, MEIGWO 007. And I have a Flickr page, which I haven't updated in a long time. But I do need to get better about promoting. You know, it's like it's a garden you got to keep tending to. If you're going to promote photography, you got to make sure you're putting new stuff out there all the time. And I'm not great about doing that because that's not really why I take photos and enjoy photography. It's not really to promote to other people for the likes and the shares. It's mostly because I enjoy photography. But I should do better about, hey, you want to see my photos? Here's where you go, you know. But I do have an Instagram page that's out there if you guys want to look at it.
Yeah. I get that. That's with me in writing. That's never gone away. I mean, you know this, but most people don't. I started writing in high school, actually middle school, and then kept writing through even college. I was an editor for Sports Page, but you need that outlet. You need that something. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, cool. It's any other hobbies that you picked up? Didn't you were a beer brewer, right? For a while? Was. You and Jeff?
In Milwaukee, my buddy Jeff and I were brewing beer. I have not done that in a long time. I drink a lot of beer. I do that.
That's all right. That works.
I do miss that, but one hobby at a time, man. Photography is expensive too, man. Getting all this gear and everything.
Yeah. No, you're
but it's been fun. Transitioning to digital was amazing. I mean, with film, when I was in high school, you get a roll of 36. That's it, man. You got 36 photos. When I first got my first digital camera, I put that SD card in there. It's 1,000 photos. So you just take, instead of taking one, I'll take 8 and pick the best one. Which it's just a different way to apply the art. It's been really enjoyable and fun learning that.
Oh man, well, you've got skills, brother. So keep it going. Thank you. And then let me know. I'll publicize it on my blog too. But let me know as soon as you. If you end up with a website, I mean, whatever works. But let me know. Okay.
Okay, I will.
All right, we're at an hour right now, and I want to keep going. Are you cool with that?
Sure. My laptop's at 32%, so keep going.
Well, we should be done. We should be done by then. But let's. I've got 2 more main segments here, so let's talk career, because as long as I've known you, before I even let you answer this, I want to let people know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Dating back to senior year high school days, Tim was actually the first person in our graduating class that ever got accepted to college. And it may have been the only college you applied to. I don't know. But the one thing what's that?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So it's that's even more so. But one thing, I mean, I admire you for beyond just more than one reason, but the fact that you knew what you wanted to do and you pursued it and you're living it. We talked about living dreams earlier. Mm-hmm. You have had a 20+ year career in aviation, and that's not going away anytime soon. So I want those listening to really listen to this, because this, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things about you that are badass, but the career aviation, how does a kid that grew up the way we did,
sure,
as a TCK, with family in North Carolina, I mean, you're stretched all over the world, but how's a kid that grew up in Taipei, Taiwan, decide at an early age he wants a career in aviation?
Well, it's because I grew up in Taiwan, honestly. So we flew those planes
Really?
back and forth,
Yeah.
those big, beautiful 747s, and back then, and people watching remember that grew up in that time. If you were on a flight, halfway through the flight attendant would come back and say, "You want to go up and see the cockpit?" And I was 8 years old, going up there and seeing all that stuff. I mean, it would just blew my mind. That I was just amazed by it. And, I was either going to be an actor, a photographer, or an airline pilot.
Which you could have done all the above, by the way.
What's that?
And I'm not the only one that thinks that. You could have done all the above. I'm not the only one that thinks that. Those of you that know Tim from our high school days, well, even in Ireland, remember what you did in Ireland?
What I do in Ireland?
Stage.
Oh, yeah.
I sang
Wild Rover on stage in Ireland. No big deal.
Yeah, but my point is you could have done any of those three things. So go ahead. Tell the people.
Anyway, so when I was in, I think, 10th grade, my mother and I were having the, what do you want to do kind of thing. And I told her, I think I'd like to be an airline pilot. And my mother, being the fantastic woman she was and mother she was, went out the next day to our career center guidance, whatever, and asked them for all the colleges I could go to that had aviation programs. At the time, there were mainly three. There was Parks University in St. Louis, Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne, Florida, and Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach. And then that summer, her and I visited those three colleges. And as soon as I saw Embry-Riddle, I knew that's where I wanted to go.
Did you have a connection to Florida before that? Because your mom ended up moving there, and you guess
yeah, my parents did buy a house here, but it was because I was in college here. Not really that much of it. I applied for early admission the summer after my 11th grade year and got accepted. And I'm like, well, that's that. And yeah, I didn't have to apply to any other colleges. It was amazing. I was very lucky. And I was fortunate. And while you guys were having to write all your essays and stuff and apply to all these colleges, I'm like, well, I guess I'll play Nintendo and we'll meet up later.
Totally. I remember that. I was jealous. So, because you took early acceptance, didn't you? Weren't you done by Christmas time? Yeah.
Yeah. Summer of after 11th grade year, I was accepted, and that was the end of that. Yeah.
Well, tell me about so you went to Embry-Riddle, you ended up a flight instructor, then you got into the aviation world, and 9/11 happened and you were furloughed.
Yeah.
Walk us through the rest of your career, man, because it's not just being a pilot as to what your little niche is either. You've got a lot going on. So I want the people to truly understand what your career has been about.
Yep. Well, when I was at Embry-Riddle, I took a minor in aviation safety and aircraft accident investigation because it seemed interesting to me. I actually did an internship with the NTSB. They're the government group that investigates aircraft accidents. I was actually involved in a TW-800 accident investigation, which was amazing. That was a 747 that exploded off of Long Island, if you remember, back in 1996. But yeah, I was a flight instructor, and I got hired at this airline in Milwaukee called Skyway Airlines, which is a part of Midwest Airlines. And my class date was September 17th of 2001. We were all furloughed, let go September 19th of 2001. I lost my job. I went from being a flight instructor to an airline pilot to a waiter in the span of 1 week because of that. And it was unfortunate, it was sad. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise because while I was on furlough and waiting tables, Skyway Airlines was hiring a safety analyst, I believe was the title, 12 hours a week, just basically answering what we called safety concern reports from pilots. So I got this job in the safety department, working in safety. 12 hours turned into 20 hours a week. Then it was 40 hours a week. Next thing you know, I was a manager of safety programs and got recalled to fly. So I was flying airplanes and was managing these safety programs for this airline. It was fantastic. That airline went out of business in 2008. I flew for Spirit Airlines briefly back then and got furloughed again back in the crisis of 2008, and then got hired on again at JetBlue, actually not as a pilot. Because I had that background in safety, JetBlue actually hired me as a FOQA analyst. What is FOQA? FOQA stands for Flight Operational.
You watch your mouth. This is a family show, buddy.
It stands for Flight Operational Quality Assurance. And basically what it is, we analyze aircraft data. You've heard of the black box on the airplane. It records thousands of parameters, your airspeed, your altitude, all that sort of stuff. We download that data into a software, and it tells us where we may have issues or safety threats in the airline industry or in our airline. So I was doing that as an analyst. And after a year of that, JetBlue let me interview for a pilot position. So for a while there, I was a manager at JetBlue, safety programs, and also flying airplanes. And now I've since transitioned. I went to a full-time pilot, and now I'm doing the same thing, but on the union side. So I'm the chairman of the FOCWA committee for ALPA, Airline Pilot Association, which is our union here at JetBlue. And I basically got to see both sides of that program. And it's been interesting going from a full-time management job to a volunteer position and working with some really fantastic folks there. And what we do basically is, as this data comes off the airplane, if we see a vent that's, well, what happened there? Or, why were you going so fast, so low? Or why'd you touch down so hard, or whatever? We can, as the union, we can identify who that pilot was. We can give them a call, and they can talk to us openly about what happened. We can put our report in. The company never knows who the pilot was that was involved in that event. They get a lot of great safety data without the pilot ever being at risk of disciplinary action and that sort of thing. And it's a great program to, it's fun to work with data and kind of nerd out on that kind of stuff. But it's also great to be able to glean a lot of good safety information from our pilot group, and to be able to make sure they're protected, their job is protected, but that they can share openly, yeah, I made this mistake and this happened, and we can learn from that collectively as a pilot group. It's been really fascinating, and just kind of a weird career trajectory that I ended up here, but I wouldn't trade it. And it all happened, something bad would happen. I would lose my job or get furloughed or whatever, and it would lead to I got hired at this safety position, and I got laid off again, but it's because I had that safety background. I got hired at JetBlue, and then now I get really the best of both worlds. I do some project work also for JetBlue as well for safety and operations, and that's been interesting and fun. I like just getting busy with all sorts of different things. I get to still fly airplanes, and also get to participate in some of these projects and safety work as well. So it's been great. I really enjoy it.
Oh, you're amazing, brother. Positives and negatives of the industry, then. What would you say are the positives and negatives?
Yeah, it's a great job, man. I mean, there's nothing like flying these airplanes. You get a lot of time off, which is great. You are gone a lot.
What's the plane you most fly? The plane you most fly?
I fly the Airbus A320 and the A321. It's an Airbus product that seats anywhere from 150 to 200 passengers, depending on the configuration. And it's great. I mean, it's such a cool job. You can't. It's cool, right? You get to fly these airplanes. The downside is you're gone a lot. Right. I'll leave on a Monday, get back on a Thursday. The kids don't like. They see that uniform come on and they get upset. It's also can be tedious at times. You're sitting there at cruise at 36,000 feet. Not a lot to do there. That's why I'm happy to be involved in a lot of these safety programs and that sort of stuff. The downside is, I
don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but there have been. Say that again.
I was going to say the downside.
I cut you off. Sorry.
That's no problem. The downside is what we're experiencing right now. We went from a year ago, we couldn't hire enough pilots, and we're worried. There's a pilot shortage. There's not enough pilots in the pipeline going through military, going through these aviation schools, and now we're at the complete opposite. And you've got American Airlines parking more than half of their fleet, Delta doing the same thing. We got pilots, thousands of pilots are probably about to lose their job. And that's very unfortunate. It's a very big downside of this industry. I got laid off 3 times with airlines. First 2, I was pretty young, but that third one where I wasn't working for 9 months, my son was 1 year old. And it took a couple months. He didn't have health insurance for a little while. We got him on the state program in Wisconsin. And there was a good couple months there where, I was holding my 1-year-old son and praying that he didn't get sick, because I didn't know what we would do about it, how we would handle that. Now, in the situation we're in now, we clearly can't keep flying the way that we are, these empty planes. So some of these airlines are going to have to make tough decisions.
Right now? I mean,
are we going to lay off thousands of pilots?
Is there a chance the whole thing shuts down? I mean, what's your take on that? Like, do you think the airline industry shuts down for 2 weeks to kind of?
No, but you're going to see it draw way back further as the stimulus money comes in, that the airlines are now deciding whether or not they want to accept, because there are some stipulations that come along with that. I think you'll see an even further reduction in flying. I mean, I flew a plane the other day down to the Dominican Republic. It had no passengers on it. And then we flew 50 people back. I flew 7 people from Newark, New Jersey down to San Juan. I mean, that's unsustainable. We're losing thousands of dollars on every one of those flights. Yeah. So we're really trying to hunker down and make it through this. JetBlue's positioned fairly well because we don't have as much international exposure as a Delta, United, or American has. We're not parking the planes like they are, but we're feeling it too, and we're looking at possibly furloughing pilots, letting pilots go, and it's very unfortunate. I'm lucky. I've been at JetBlue over 10 years. I've got enough seniority at this airline. I should be okay, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you I had a lot of anxiety. I've been waking up at 2 a.m, restless, getting up, walking around my house for no reason other than just my brain's going and I'm thinking and worried about what's going on, and that's the downside. Is it's so great when it's great and it's so bad when it's bad. And right now it's bad. It's stressful.
Yeah. I get it. Same. I mean, I transitioned out of teaching, but in the mortgage industry is kind of up in the air too, brother. So I get it. So,
Yeah.
if you weren't flying, if you weren't a pilot, if you hadn't jumped into this aviation career, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Besides a model, like a male model.
Well, yeah, duh, yeah.
I'd say I probably would have gone into acting. I think I miss acting. That's one thing I can't really do with my schedule. There's a lot of community theater, that sort of thing, but and I was an actor. I was in all the plays and stuff in high school, as you remember. But with my schedule, I can't commit to the schedule and time required to be involved in a production. Certainly, when I retire, I'd get back into that. But I think I'd certainly be acting if I could.
Oh, that doesn't shock me at all. That's awesome. So, all right, last question. We made it. This one's kind of fun. We're beer drinkers, you and I.
Empty, by the way.
Well, yeah, me too. So, but if you could have a beer with anyone, still with us or not with us, who would it be and why?
Probably my dad. My dad passed away about 6 years ago, and we had beers together. But it'd be really good to sit and chat with him. Honestly, I'd love to get your dad and my dad together and really just shut up and listen to those guys talk.
Oh, can you imagine what they'd say about what was going on right now?
Oh my gosh, I know. But we talked a lot about what it was like for us growing up overseas. I would love to know what it was like for them to uproot out of the United States with young children and move overseas. That is a conversation. I've certainly talked with my mother about that. I've certainly
me too. Actually, it's funny you say that because my mom and I just talked about that the other day. But go ahead.
But yeah, I would love to give my dad a beer, put a quarter in, and hey, with your dad, like talk to me about what it was like to have Ben and Timmy Wenger running around, being all knuckleheads. You knew we were getting in trouble. You know what we were doing. Love to get their side of that. It's unfortunate. It's not fair, but it's the way it is,
Oh, it's totally. It's funny because I'm going to be asking this every time I do one of these interviews, but that's going to be my go-to. I would love to pick my dad's brain and find out, and figure out what he would think of the world right now. Not necessarily one thing or another, but just the status of the world right now. And your dad was a second dad to me, so I mean, I'd pick his brain equally. He's hopefully they're up there arguing about our softball mistakes.
Your dad insisted you were safe. My dad's saying, "I'm telling you, I was there. He was out."
30 years later, I was safe, but whatever. It's all good. So, well, listen, brother, it's we're an hour and 15 into this. I adore you. I love you. I love your kids. I love your wife. You have been, you are a part of me, brother. So I just wanted to make that clear. That's why I wanted you on as the first interview here. We're going to keep doing this. This is not the last time you and I are going to chat. But I do want to thank you for your time. I do want to make sure people can find you online. I think I included it with the post earlier. Obviously, you're on Facebook. Obviously, you're on Instagram at Meigwo007. Is that right?
Yeah, MEIGWO007. Man, I better get some new photos on there.
No, you gotta get going with that because
I do have a Flickr site too, but I don't remember what the thing is for that. But anyway,
but you need to, folks. The guy is a talent behind the camera, so he needs to get his stuff out there. So that said, I also want to quickly just thank StreamYard. I want to thank Carl again, who interviewed me in January and got me kind of into this. My brother pushed me a little bit too. And so some of you that saw that interview with me, the TCK community, that's kind of what this is all about. But even more so, it's not just going to be about TCKs. I said this when we started. I'll continue with it. I'm someone who just enjoys people, and I like to hear people's stories. And if we can kind of to hit pause in the world right now and get people just to kind of relax and take a deep breath and have a beer, as Tim and I both been drinking. This is a coffee mug, but it's not coffee. I just want
hair
everybody
time.
to know. But no, check out also for me, just if you can, if you haven't yet, check out my blog at BenThere.org. This will be replayed on Facebook. This will also be replayed on YouTube at BenThere. That's the YouTube channel. Tim, you're my brother from another
Thank
mother,
you,
man.
Ben. And hey, and
Say,
I'm proud of you, buddy, for the stuff you're doing. Some of the books you've written
no, I
are
appreciate that.
fantastic, and that you're writing on BenThere is amazing.
Yeah.
It's something I could never do. It's very inspiring.
Well, it's like you and your
for letting me be a
photography.
part of it.
Thank you, brother. But that's my outlet. I am a writer by nature. This is all kind of new to me. Talking to you feels natural, man. So
Yeah,
it's
me too.
say hi to Carrie, say hi to the kids, give my love to them, and Emily says hi as well. But
Yes, my love to her. Just
those two ladies put up with us for whatever God knows reason. So but take care of yourself, and thank you all for joining in. I mean, it's pretty impressive. We've been up to about 40 people at one point.
That's
And
incredible.
I know
Even
that
that
was live.
interesting.
I don't even know 40 people, right? So it's there's a lot of people that have chimed in. We have been reading your messages, guys, and thank you very much. But yeah, until next time, Tim, I love you. Take care, brother.
Love you too, buddy. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Cheers.
All right, bye.
Bye, bud. You still there?